want to rewatch today's session, no worries. All recordings as well as registrations for upcoming webinars are available on ropnetwork.com under the training tab. During the webinar today, if you have a question for Dan, please use the Q&A function specifically. The Q&A feature is accessible via the Q&A icon at the bottom of your desktop screen or in the three-dot menu at the bottom right of your mobile device. Please note the Q&A is the only source we take questions from. Next to the Q&A icon is the chat icon. Please use the chat feature to share any comments or observations. Ensure your chat response is set to all attendees so everyone can see your comments. Let's try that now. Use the chat to share where you are joining us from in our great, big, beautiful country. Let's see here. What are we seeing coming in? Victoria, BC, Ottawa, Vernon, Winnipeg, Mississauga. Yay. Wow. Look at all these people coast to coast. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, wonderful to have you here. Very welcome. Thank you for attending today. It's my pleasure to introduce you to today's guest, or I should say guests, who include Dan Wood and his buddy there, Bill Murray. Dan is a trainer and a speaker focused on delivering value through educating and entertaining. And of course, we're all about that. Dan also personally coaches some Royal LePagers amongst his many clients from other brands. And we're delighted to have him here today along with Bill Murray to share some key tools and tactics for producing compelling video, because we can all appreciate how critical that is right now. So thanks so much for joining us, Dan.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And I before we went live, I'm like, there's 100% chance my cat named Bill Murray is going to crash this webinar. And right on cue, he jumped up. So hopefully he hangs out with us for the rest of the call. But if not, that's okay. I got more calls today as well. So yeah, my name's Danny Wood. I live and breathe real estate. I started in Oshawa, Ontario. So I saw a couple of people. There was Whitby in there. I also saw BC, people coming from BC. So we're actually in BC right now. So we're backing onto a provincial park. I move every month. So every month we pick up and we move to a new city. And we've been living this remote work life for years in real estate. And with COVID-19, obviously, we're not moving as much as we used to. So we're just going to hang out in the BC area until things settle down. But video and technology is 100% the thing that you have to leverage today. Like even in my early days when I was in real estate, I'm no longer, now I'm a coach. But when I was in real estate, one of the things that really helped our business was video. For the main fact that there were so many different ways that we could leverage it as a tool. So one, you could make a video of it for talking about your listing presentation as an example. Now, let's say you recorded yourself doing that. What tool would you use? You could use a camera, you could use the phone in your pocket, or write this down. So I'm gonna ask you to pull out a pen and paper if you're on this call and write down this tool. It's called Loom, L-O-O-M, loom.com. Loom.com allows you to record your computer screen and make the content. So here's the deal. If you use Loom, it would have you picture in picture in the bottom right corner of it. And the content behind you, what would it be? It would be the content that you're looking at. So in my early days of creating video, I wasn't even on camera or in front of the camera. I was just recording myself looking at the content I was looking at, whether I was talking about a landing page and we wanted to increase conversions, I would record that. If we were doing a social media post, I would record the computer screen. If we were doing a listing presentation, I would record that. And so when you have this recording, there's another tool that I want you to write down. It's called Rev, REV.com. Rev allows you to take your video and get it transcribed. And there's other free tools and programs that will do it for you, but they're not that good. Rev.com is $1.25 a minute. So it's very affordable because most of your videos are going to be what, a minute to 5 minutes in length typically. And so well under $10. And what they do is they'll transcribe it automatically, but they have a real person look over it and review it and make the edits for you, which is awesome. So when I make this video of me looking at my listing presentation and I record it and I transcribe that recording, guess what else I have from that video? You've got a blog. So you've got blog content. You can post the whole thing with the video at the top with the transcription below. And now what else do you have? You can break that into like 4 or 5 social media posts. So video really allows you to create one piece of content that you can leverage over and over and over again. A lot of real estate agents kind of face this challenge where it takes them a lot of courage to get the gear, to look into a camera and hit record, then they have to edit the video. Say an agent does fail forward and they do that for the first time. When they post something on Facebook, for example, you have a 3-day shelf life to get your comments, your likes, your shares, your engagement, and your interactions. And so with a 3-day shelf life, that's not very long. And so agents kind of feel deflated and bummed out. They're like, oh man, other people are killing it, but I didn't see the time and the worth in me doing such a thing. Well, I would encourage you to make video that you can use on an ongoing basis. So what's something that you'll be using for years to come? I'm assuming you have a website, a real estate templated based website. And on that website, you probably have a house value page of find out what your home is worth. Use Loom and hit record. So I'll pretend I'm looking at my website. So I'm going to go to my website.com/house values and I hit record on Loom. So I'll be like, hey, it's Danny Wood over at ABC Realty. And if you're thinking of selling your home here in Durham region, Oshawa, Whitby, Pickering, and Ajax, fill in the form below. And what you're going to get is a comprehensive list of all the homes that you would be competing with. Plus, I want to get you to find out exactly what your home is worth if you were to put your home on the market for sale today. And as an added free bonus, I'm also going to include all the homes for sale that match your criteria as if you were the buyer. And this allows you to do your window shopping and information gathering. This is going to be a remote, virtual, free consultation. It doesn't cost you anything. Just fill in the form below. I'm a real guy and I'll really follow up. My name's Danny Wood. Boom, stop that video. That took me 30 seconds or 40 seconds. I mean, I didn't even have to wear pants, right? I definitely encourage you to wear pants. But when you do these videos, you don't have to make it that complicated. You could have been sitting at your computer. You could have been sitting in your kitchen and you're just recording your computer screen, looking at your house value page or looking at your buyer page or looking at your about us page. So the video actually isn't so much about you. It's about the content that you're creating. So those are a couple of tips and tricks on using video. So I definitely do want this to be interactive. And I was telling the girls, you guys can ask your questions freely and they'll not interrupt me. They're just going to bring up your questions instead of waiting for them all at the end. The other thing is I changed my name. Oh, I can't have that as my name. Huh, that's weird. My number is 905-903-5442. Before we hang up, I'm going to put my contact information in there so that you guys can each do a free coaching call with me where we share a screen, just you and I, and you can ask whatever questions it is that you have.
Hey,
So,
Dan, it's Kelly
yeah.
here. Can you share that number again and I'll put it in the chat? 905?
903-5442.
5442. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to switch screens for a second. I'm going to play a video. So let me do this and share screen. All right. Now, if I hit play and you don't hear the sound, just unmute yourself and yell at me because I won't be able to know that you can't hear it. Hey, what's up? It's Danny here. I'm going to try something totally new. I just heard fireworks go off in the background. It's the new year, and I have a pretty cool setting. It's a prison, an old prison, and it goes with the theme of today's video, which is going to be about feeling trapped. My example of failing started with this vlog, but your example can be totally different, whether it's losing weight or trying something new or anything in general. We've all failed. So if you've ever been on that fail train, you'll totally appreciate where I'm coming from. When I failed with my vlog, there was 3 primary things that did that to me. The first one was the gear and the process. So I overcomplicated all the gear that I needed, and the process to actually edit the video and stitch it all together is just like really paralyzed me. Nothing ever felt natural and candid. It was very scripted, robotic, and just shit is basically what I ended up thinking. Speaking of the script, I could never memorize a script, so I tried so many different things where I would put bullet points and tape it onto the tripod underneath the camera, but you could see me looking down and not looking into the camera. And then other things I tried was actually writing up a script and using a teleprompter. That one actually works really good, but the problem with it was my videos turned out to be just me talking into the camera, and nobody wants to see that. And so me doing a talking head video just wasn't going to cut it for today's modern world. We just don't have the attention span for that. So the teleprompter idea is awesome, except for boring. Now, whatever your project is that you're working on that you keep failing at, a lot of times we let stuff get in the way. So my example here is I'm looking at a GoPro. I actually love the GoPro. I think everybody should have one. However, we all experience it where you buy something brand new thinking it's going to solve your problem, and you take it out of the box and you shoot your first little shot, or you do whatever you do with it. And it's just like not what you expected. Everybody else made it look so much better than how you are doing it. And it's kind of embarrassing. When I see all the other footage that people are capturing with it, the clarity of the audio, the crispness of the scene, just like the whole cinematic sequence, and then I get it and it's just like, terrible. So the process or the end result is never what you expected. I mean, especially when you compare yourself to different people. So I just threw up 3 people on the screen here. There's Casey, Peter, and Jesse. And these are 3 guys that I really look up to. And the problem with me looking up to these guys is that I pale in comparison. I never cut it. When I look at the quality of the work that they do, these are 3 YouTubers. But it doesn't matter if it's 3 YouTubers that you are inspired by, or if it's like a star that you look up to, an industry leader, or a colleague down the hallway. What ends up happening is we get so distracted and blinded by the polish and the fake social world that we live in that we expect what we do to be the exact same results as what they do. And if it's not even close, we're just kind of depressed and sad with ourselves. And I definitely found myself in that boat because I just never found my groove. So I got this video up here and it's showing behind the scenes. So a lot of the people that are ahead of you, there's usually a team behind them. And that team has a collective experience, whether it be like 20 years in that industry or 10 years or 15 or 30. And you're trying it for the first time, you have a collective experience of 0. We always forget this, and when I'm trying to do self-filming like I am now, and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to edit this little video, I have to realize I don't have the army, which is flying by right now. There's literally an air base, and that's an army helicopter. So the army is flying away without me, and I'm standing here by myself doing it. So it's easy for them to look all high on their horse when they got a crew of people that can make them look good in any light. And then here we are over in the corner, if anybody can relate. You're like a horse, just a toy horse, walking in circles, and people are just walking by. They're not even like offering to help us, right? So my problem initially started with the fact that on YouTube, I'm over 500 videos right now, which is awesome. That's not the problem. I got about 300 that are public and 200 that are private. Now, there's an algorithm that YouTube really looks at, and it's called audience retention. That's the playthrough rate. So if it was a 60-second video, what's the percentage of time people will stick through? Is it 10 seconds, 40, 60? Obviously, the higher the better. Now, my problem with this audience retention is that I have really long format videos. They're like 40 minutes to 60 minutes, and ideally on YouTube, it should be more like 3 minutes to 12 minutes. And so that's a huge problem for me. And because of that, YouTube is going to be penalizing my videos organically when people do searching. So I thought to fix this problem would be to just make shorter format videos, 3-minute to 8-minute videos. So what I could do is take all of my old format videos, repurpose them into fresh content. So I thought I'd flip the switch and create my own lane. I mean, I kept trying to compare myself to other vloggers and compare myself to other people that are doing things that just aren't my strengths and skill sets. So I thought, why can't I just create my own lane? One thing I've discovered in my public speaking endeavors, when I'm on stage and I'm doing a presentation, the presentation that everybody is looking at actually isn't for them. The presentation is for me. It's a visual reference and a visual cue as to what I should be saying and keeping me on track for my story. So why can't I do the same thing where I just use my phone to tell a little story for you? So I'm using Keynote right now. Keynote is an awesome tool. It allows you to create presentations directly on your phone. So everything that you've seen in this video so far, I made on Keynote. All the animations of the text, all the actual videos that you're watching, it's just playing on Keynote and I'm recording my screen as I talk to you. What's really awesome about this little format, I feel, it gives me an organic script. I'm not reading something word for word and feeling like a robot and unnatural. It allows me to just tell my story and kind of bounce around, but stay in the lane. It also gives me the B-roll overlay footage for you so that it breaks up the monotony of being so boring, just staring at my face the whole time that I talk. And then also the cool thing about Keynote is that you can do it in portrait mode. So I can create this presentation the size of my phone, and then therefore I can upload it to things like Instagram stories and Facebook stories, and even Facebook and YouTube now allow you to upload in portrait mode, and when a person watches that, it takes up the whole screen. Basically storytelling on the go. This is going to be my new format, and I want to know, like, if you stumble, will you make it part of the dance? Because I've literally been stumbling for years. I just stumbled on that word. And I've been stumbling for years. Like literally I bought my Sony DSLR camera like 3 or 4 years ago to make a vlog. And then I was going to do another vlog of me doing adventures and having fun. And it just took the fun out of the fun by having to create all this content. It's just not why I wanted to do it. Now I have a real reason. My YouTube channel, the numbers are going to start to go down because of that audience retention rate, and people just don't care for long format videos. So part of my stumbling enabled me to fail forward and find a solution that I think will work. I don't know anybody else who's doing these type of videos where they're using a presentation on their phone to keep them on track, but I think you could do it as well. Let me share a couple ideas with you. Monthly videos. So if you were a real estate agent, you could create a presentation on your phone for the market stats of what's happened in your market, property types, that sort of thing. And then it could be a monthly video that you do, and it only takes like a minute or 2 minutes to make. A product or service highlight video. So I could easily create, if I was in the car industry and a new car comes out, just like even in real estate as well, kind of like going through a presentation talking about all the highlights, and you're like flipping the page of the magazine or flipping the page of the brochure or flipping through the listing photos of that property, and you're just kind of talking about them. About you, all real estate agents and all people in business should have an about you, about the team, and or about the company. And so maybe you could start off with making that as your video. And then the client process. So a lot of the videos that I make, I intend on repurposing for multiple reasons. I never make a video just for uploading a video's sake. I always have a reason for it. Many times it's either for a landing page or for like a follow-up sequence to educate a person as to why they should maybe enroll in that product or service. Hopefully I just gave you a couple ideas. I don't know, I'm just kind of, oh, time's up, they're shooting the cannons. So we're standing out front of the prison here. Hopefully you don't feel trapped. Hopefully you fail forward. Okay, and stop that video on to there. the I'm next. come back to the camera. Now, normally there's a bunch of people and I can say, hey, give me a thumbs up and shake your head if you can see and hear me. You can see and hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Good, very good. So normally at this point, this is where I usually start getting questions where people are like, oh, cool video, but how do you do that? What gear do you use? That sort of thing. So I'm going to shift into the gear part of it. But if there were other questions arising during that, if you can shout them out, that would be awesome.
Sure.
Well,
We got a question from Daphne Dales. She asks, when you give an example of recording yourself on your Facebook page, did you have your face showing up also on the Facebook page, or was it just your voice that was recorded? How did your Facebook followers know to listen to your voice? Do you have a special link on your Facebook to direct them?
well, any video is either of me or of the content that I'm looking at. So sometimes the content didn't require my face to be present at all. But if you do want to have your content and your face present at the same time, the program is called Loom, Loom, and it records both at the same time simultaneously. Yeah.
Is Keynote an app on the iPhone?
Yeah. So Keynote is free if you're an iOS user, which is iPhone and iPad. And if you're not, then you're going to want to use PowerPoint, which is on the rest Android devices. Yeah. And the structure, how I had that was I had my camera on a tripod. Like when you watch that video, I don't know if it was just me coming from my train of thought, but it felt and looked really natural. Well, I did that video in one take. I shot it and edited it from this phone right here. Now, normally when a person uses their phone, they use the camera on the front facing so that they can see themselves. what I'm going to encourage you to do is not to use the front facing camera, but to use the one on the back. So I have the newer iPhone. So I'm going to use this camera instead of this camera. The reason for that, simply put, it has a larger hole and it allows more light in, and that removes a lot of the grainy noise. And that allowed me to do the shots where it was zooming into me and zooming out. I was able to do that because I used the camera on the back and not the camera on the front. I'm going to actually shift and show you guys some of the gear that I want you to consider. This one I just got on Amazon yesterday, and it unfolds and it holds your laptop up. Because the problem with, I'm about to switch cameras, so I'm looking at this one and I'm about to switch to this one. And if I do switch to the one on my computer here, I'm going to be looking down at you, right? And that's not a good thing. So this thing on Amazon, it's a folding laptop stand. And you can buy them for $20, $50, something like that. And then your laptop just clips into it, which is awesome. So I'm going to shift over to my other screen for a second. There. And now see how much it raised my laptop where I'm actually eye contact with you instead of, like, if I was using my regular built-in camera doing this webinar, I'd be looking down at you and it would create unnecessary rolls around the bottom of my face, and you'd be looking up my nose and a bunch of just unpleasants. So now I can be on the same level as a person. So I'm going to stop this camera and I'm going to shift over to my other camera. It takes me about 20 seconds, so bear with me 1 second. Now, while I'm switching gears into this other camera, the other video that you should consider making is any of your follow-up plans. If you have a buyer follow-up or a seller follow-up, you'll definitely want to make videos based on that, because it really builds the know you, like you, trust you factor, and you'll be using those videos for years to come, basically. Okay, here I can, tell me that you can see my screen. Sorry, Zoom takes too many clicks. All right, now you can see my screen, right? You can see me standing.
We can see you.
Good. Okay, yeah, that's what I want. And on my screen, I have this little graphic animation here. Let me switch over to it. There you go. And now you can see the graphic sliding?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay, hi. Danny Wood here. New camera. This is the one built into my laptop. And I'm going to talk about some of the gear I want you to consider. If you're making a ton of content on your phone, you're going to run out of room on your phone with all the 4K video that you're shooting, all the pictures and all the social media posts and everything, and you can run out of room really quickly. This thing called the Samsung SSD, it literally plugs into any phone and works as like a drag and drop mobile memory stick, but a huge one. You can buy all different sizes, and I basically back up all of my phone onto it for all of the videos that we're shooting and editing and the raw footage and just everything. We just dump onto this thing. Yes, we can use the cloud, and I probably should be talking about being remote and using the cloud, but having something physical that you can just drag and drop and throw in your backpack on the go makes a lot of sense for a lot of us. The Sandisk, this one's the iOS version. There is an Android version as well. What's cool about this is it's got a USB and it's got the part that plugs into your phone. So I can just plug it right into my phone, copy all of the files off, and then plug it onto my computer. And I do that for a lot of things, like say I have to move drone footage around or something. I could airdrop that, but it's just going to be a lot easier to plug in, copy, plug it in my computer, copy. It's just a lot easier to flip back and forth. And they're rather cheap. I mean, 20, 30, 50, $70, depending on the memory size that you get. I really highly recommend it. Now, before I get you all into like, oh man, I got to buy all this gear that Danny says, really, you've got the gear that you need, and it's the phone that's in your pocket. But if you want to level up your game a little bit, I'm going to give you a couple suggestions. The first one is this. It's called the iRig MicLav. The iRig MicLav, what's good about it is that it just plugs directly into your phone. Now, I have an iPhone, so it has a lightning pin adapter, right? Well, this right here is not a lightning pin adapter. It is a round plug. So I had to buy an iPhone dongle because it's 2020 and you need a dongle for everything. So I had to buy a dongle and then I plugged that in. Now, once I have the dongle, it just works. So I don't need an app. I don't need any power or batteries or anything. And what happens is it puts the microphone closer to the sound source. And what that will do is it will raise your volume, and then it will remove all the background noise. Not all of it, but it removes a lot of it because the microphone is so much closer to the sound source. Now, this is the budget friendly version. So it's say $50 to $70, depending where you buy it. There's definitely better things on the market, but for the price, it's the best plug and play. It'll work for years, and it's a good thing to have in your toolkit. Now, if you do want to spend a little bit of money, this Rode Go. So Rode is the brand and Go is the product. So the Rode Go is a wireless microphone that is also a lapel mic. It clips onto your shirt, but it cuts the cord. So you don't have that cable dragging between you and your camera. So say you had your phone on a tripod in the kitchen and you're walking around the kitchen showing all the upgrades of the kitchen. This gives you that freedom to be able to maneuver without being tied down by a cord. It also has a really cool built-in feature that allows you to increase the volume or decrease the volume before you even start recording. And where that would play out would be, say you're doing a condo and you're outside on the balcony and it's really loud out there and you make a video. And then you come into the kitchen and it's really quiet and you make another video. When you put those two videos together, they're not going to line up with the same audio pitch. It's going to be like a mismatch. And so it will be a distraction for your viewer. And what this does is it just allows you to give a little bit of control before you even hit record. So that's the one that I use. This is the one that Tom Ferry uses. A whole bunch of content creators use this microphone, but it's not cheap. $200, $300, that sort of thing. Now, I definitely do encourage that you get a light. This light right here, the Aputure AL-M9, it literally fits in the palm of your hand. It's the size of a credit card. Like, it is so small. I can take it off this big stand and put it into my pocket. And what it does is it just gives you, it's a light. So, I mean, there's nothing fancy. It just gives you better lighting, which that wasn't a good example of it because of my webcam. But if I did need better lighting, this is one of the best little pocket things I've ever bought. I've spent thousands of dollars on lights, and this thing is like, I don't know what they go for now, 50 or 60. I want to buy another one. I use this more than any other light. The problem or challenge with it is that it only works when it's an arm's length away from you. So if I have my webcam or my camera on a tripod 5 feet away, this isn't going to be bright enough. So what you're going to want is something like this. It's a 10-inch ring light. So you can go onto Amazon and search 10-inch ring light. You might find one cheaper. Just make sure that it's 10 inches because they do sell smaller ones, but they're for like a DSLR camera and the lens fits in the middle, but the camera hangs out the back. Well, you want your phone to fit in the middle, so it has to be a 10-inch ring light. This kit in particular gives you for $80 too, Canadian, the tripod, a phone holder that does landscape mode and portrait mode, and it gives you a Bluetooth remote shutter for $80. So just do your shopping on it. Well, buy local if you can. Go to your local store and see what they got. But if you're in a pinch and you need options, this is like $80 or $85, and it's an all-in-one. It gives you everything that you need. It's really good. I'm going to skip this one because they don't sell it in Canada anymore. Okay, so this is called a Bluetooth remote. It's a HISY remote. Now, we've probably experienced this, or you may have experienced this, where you have your phone on a tripod, you walk over to it and you hit record, and then you walk back. That whole time you're walking back, the autofocus is going all wacky, the white balance is going all out of whack, and you have to trim that video clip, the beginning and end, because you're going to have to walk over and stop the video too. Well, with this, they sell them for both iPhone and Android, and they're like $20, and it's just a wireless shutter. And so when you click the button, it will start the video. And when you click the button again, it will stop the video. So it totally removes that whole trimming the beginning and end of every clip that you do. Now, if this is really expensive, so anybody who likes to buy stuff and not follow through, close your ears. But anybody who actually is pushing video and content, this 100% solves one problem and one problem only, and that's audio. So I fell into the trap of buying a microphone, not being happy, buying a more expensive microphone, not being happy. And the reason why I was never happy with the microphone is because, say I stopped talking, and there was that dead silence. If you listened with earbuds, you could totally hear all this like staticky white noise. And I didn't want that. And I kept thinking it was the quality of the microphone. I also wanted a louder voice because when I watch other people's YouTube videos, their videos sound so much louder and clearer than my videos when I didn't have a good microphone. And I found out that it's not actually even the microphone. It's the fact that your phone and your camera have a built-in preamp for the audio, and that's what's causing the poor noise. So this thing is 100%, its only job is to be the preamp. So you plug your microphone into one part and then it plugs into your phone, and I'm telling you, it is night and day. I don't even have to use super expensive mics anymore because it's not the mic that was causing the issue. It was the fact that I was just plugging my mic into my device, which would be either your Sony camera or your GoPro or your regular phone. And those have terrible preamps. And that is what was causing the main issue. And I really wish somebody did a webinar for me telling me that so I didn't waste thousands of dollars. I'm showing you a picture of an iPhone. All smartwatches have a compatible all smartphones have a compatible smartwatch. And what's cool about, I don't know specifically on Android, but I can tell you from experience on the iPhone that when I use my iPhone watch, it actually shows my screen as a preview. So say I'm like about to make a video, I could be like, oh, I got to move over and down, right? And I wouldn't know that, oops, and I wouldn't know that if I couldn't see myself in the camera. But remember, I don't use the front of my camera, I use the back of my camera, so I can't see my positioning. Well, on my watch, it's a preview, and I can start and stop right from my watch. So it works really, really, really good. Okay, so let me skip a couple things for you here. I want to, is there any questions about the gear so far?
Yeah, a few of them have come in. Sorry, you were on a roll, so I didn't
Yeah,
interrupt you.
no.
And I'm new to video too, like way new, and I'm way out of my comfort zone. And you're telling me some great stuff, so I'll have to stop reading my intros from now on.
Yeah.
But the one of the questions is, was that light rechargeable?
Yes, the
Yeah.
Aputure AL-M9.
Mhm.
It is rechargeable. And so I have 3 different styles of these portable ones, and this one has the longest battery and it's the lightest physical in weight. And so if you are doing like a selfie stick, it's not heavy because you have the light, you have your phone case, and you have the stick, and that can be tiring if you do like a longer video. And so that's why this is still my most used light of all of them, and it is battery charge. The built-in battery.
That's great. And there were some questions about when you're using the reverse side of your phone to film, how can
Yeah,
you see yourself? Like you did mention it there, but I'm not sure that
I
everyone's clear. Like they're
right.
not necessarily going to have the watch. So what could they do?
Yeah. So the other thing I do is I do a test where I have it before. So I use my watch and I can clearly see that I'm in view, I'm in focus, and I'm where I need to be. So that's my answer. But before I had my watch, what I used to do is I would do a test shot and I would put a marker on the ground. Like maybe if I wasn't using my selfie stick at that moment, I would just put it exactly where I know my feet have to go. So I use like whatever props I have lying around. You can use tape, you can use whatever you want. I use tape quite often as well to actually mark my ground.
You actually create a mark that you
Yeah,
stand
a
on.
physical. I actually literally just stand by gear that I have kicking around in my bag. I'll just put that, and I'll put one piece at my left foot and one piece at my right foot, and I know where I have to. Even like the angling of how I'm situated, I really like using a selfie stick because say I have to be like on a 45 or whatever, I'll just put that on a 45 and then I know I'm good to go.
Perfect. And where can we buy all these really cool tools and gears? What's the best place to go to get, good
Oh,
deals?
okay. So like let me switch back to that really expensive audio thing for a second because that's where people will get the most confused. This thing. So say a person wanted to buy this and they were planning on using it with their phone. There's a special cable that you need to buy that will go from this thing into your phone. And so I think the best bet is for you to just call Henry's or B&H video, and you can just Google search B&H video. They'll come right up. So they're a big one. Henry's is the Canadian one. So support Canada and give them a call and they'll just like walk you through and tell you, oh, you need this, but you need this accessory to go with it for it to work with what you have. So I
Right, you're
really
going to get that
encourage,
expertise and
yeah.
insight that you wouldn't get elsewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, because even with the Rode Go, for example, where is it? This thing. So I needed a special cable for this to work with my phone as well that I had to buy extra. It was like 20 bucks. And I don't even know what the cable's called. I just went into Henry's and they told me, they're like, "Oh, you need this for it to work." I'm like, "Add it to the cart."
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And that ring light, what was the brand that you're using?
Just go onto Amazon, search 10-inch ring light and find the best kit that you can. The brand won't matter because they're all going to be like knockoffs anyways.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the real answer is a softbox is what you want, but they're like $700 to $1,000 and they take up the size of a kitchen counter, and just like setting it up and tearing it down isn't realistic. For most part, if you just have a ring light, that will work for like 90% of the people on the call.
And the square one, what was the brand of that one?
Aputure AL-M9. So Aputure AL-M9. So there it is there.
Right. Are there any considerations for Android users? Like a lot of what you've talked about has been specific to your iPhone or Apple.
No, yeah, everything. Android has a no. Everything I did say, I kind of gave a counterpart. So if I use Keynote on my iPhone, I use PowerPoint on an Android.
Okay.
The only other thing was the watch, and that's just because I have the watch. I assume Android has a compatible. I don't even know if Android has a smartwatch. They must. And I don't know if they have the shutter option. That's the only thing that is like dicey. The other thing that's Android versus here, let me pull that up for you too. There is an Android versus iOS, and that's video editing. So that goes in alignment. Let me just pull that up. Here. So if you want to edit your own video, which you shouldn't, you should get out of your own way and get other people to edit your video for you. But if you want to edit your own video, if your iPhone, iOS, definitely LumaFusion. Nothing beats it. If you're Android, then get Power Director. So Power Director does work on iPhone and Android. But if you have an iPhone, stick with LumaFusion. And if you have Android, get Power Director. Now, you should learn the basics of video editing. So say you have something you want to do for social media. It doesn't make sense for you to outsource that if it's like a 10-15 second little clip for your story. I mean, you might as well just hack your way through it. And so if that's the case, I would use one of these two. If you are to get out of your own way, you want to use either Fiverr or Upwork. So when I'm going to switch cameras for a second. Let me stop this. I really don't like the lighting in that camera, so I'm going to switch to this one. So if I was to be outsourcing on Fiverr or Upwork, this is how I do it. It's just like you posting your couch for sale on Kijiji. Only instead of being a couch for sale, you're posting that you're hiring for a certain talent and you want people to do a certain task. And you'll set the rate. You'll be like $50 a project or $20 an hour or whatever it is. So I'm not telling you to outsource for like because you can find somebody for $1 an hour. That's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you to just find the talent and get out of your own way. So when I outsourced for my first video project, what I did was in the description of the job board, I said, do not attach a resume. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to make sure that they follow instructions. The other reason is because I wasn't going to look at resumes because they're all made up anyways. Like they're not going to give me a bad testimonial. Like I'm going to call their uncle and they're going to give me the truth. No, they're not. So I don't care about resumes. I'll give everybody a chance. And the only way to do that is to actually hire them. So I'll hire 5 people all to edit the same project. And what I do is I put like that video that you watched where I was on the top half and then the graphics run the lower half. That was 2 video files and I put them in a Dropbox folder. And then I would go to Upwork or Fiverr and say, edit this video. And I'll let them have the creative freedom of putting that story together. And so of the 5, 3 of them are going to be no good to mediocre, but 2 of them are going to really, really stand out. And so now I know going forward, when I have more videos in the future, I got these 2 people as a backup that I could rely on to edit my videos. And it would be like a flat rate, like $30 per video or whatever number you set with people. So outsourcing is brilliant, 100% brilliant. Let me switch this. Man, these Zoom calls are a real challenge to make them fluid, to go from one camera to the other. So yeah, this little stand that makes your tablet higher so that you're eye to eye instead of looking down on people is really cool. That was my first webinar I got to use it for, so lucky you. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to shift over to another presentation that we have on working, because like right now it's not business as usual. So it's not business as usual for you. It's not business as usual for your friends and family in your sphere of influence. And here's the deal. Of all the ideas I can give you with marketing and technology and apps, it's the agents that stay in touch with their database that are going to get ahead and get all the business, because we're reaching a tipping point right now. Like I'm fortunate that I have a bird's eye view of both Canada and the US with my clients coast to coast. So I can see what's happening at a broader scale. And it's trickling up where there is a lot. Okay, say your clients wanted to move 2 months ago and they didn't. And then last month they're like, oh, we still want to move, but they're not. And then this month they're still like, oh man, I'm really not sure. It doesn't matter if murder hornets are flying around and the world is on fire. There's people that just have to move because their mortgage was coming up and that's passed. The divorce was already finalized before COVID happened, and now it's even worse. The job opportunity, maybe somebody's working remotely and they get to move to another part of the country. So there's people that, like, regardless of what's happening, they're going to be moving. And right now we're seeing an uptick. And I don't have a crystal ball to say in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks, but it's going to be relatively short. So within the next 2 to 4 weeks, I guess I will use my fake crystal ball to say that there's going to be a huge spike up of pent up demand. There's a huge amount of people that are sitting on the fence and ready and willing to go. So I can distract you guys with a ton of cool technology and tricks, but really if you want to get ahead, it's picking up the phone and contacting your database. And so I'm going to share with you a story on how I alleviated that pain and made it a joy. So my basic rule on life is that joy is your internal compass. And if you don't have joy doing something, you're on the wrong track, especially in business. So if you're trading time for money and you don't have joy doing that, that's one of the biggest reasons people have regrets when they look back on life. And so I'm going to share my screen. So let me share my screen and I'll play another video for you. So how do I do that? I'm going to stop this one. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so just yell at me if this video, you don't hear it. And I'm going to hit play now. Hey, what's up? It's Danny Wood here. I'm going to do vlog number 2, which is going to be on relationship marketing. And a lot of real estate agents, they feel awkward when they're calling their database. And I can totally relate. I'll tell you why. One of my life's goals is to have joy with everything that I do. And if I don't have joy doing it, I don't want to do it, especially when it comes to work. Like, we're trading time for money. It's one of the most valuable things, time. And we're just wasting it on things that we don't like doing. So if it's not bringing me joy, I don't want to do it. And the joy totally was sucked out of me as soon as I got into the real estate business. I walked in the front door and they gave me a wadded up, crusty bunch of pieces of paper glued together. I think they called it a phone book. And they wanted me to go through such a book and cold call these people. I'm like, whoa, hold on, cowboy. I'm out in the middle of a desert, but that doesn't mean that's what I want to do. Anything else you can suggest for me? And they're like, yeah, we got a couple more brick walls for you. How about you bug your sphere of influence? I mean, call your sphere of influence. I'm pretty sure that's what they said. Yeah, I got to call my sphere of influence, my friends and family. Hey, Joey, it's Danny Wood here. I haven't talked to you in 20 years, but I got my real estate license now, and I'm really eager for that commission. How are the kids? It didn't sit well with me. I didn't want to do that. So I'm like, okay, what else you got? And they're like, well, how about you prospect complete strangers, like for sale by owners and inspireds? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not why I got into business. I don't feel good. I don't want to show up and do this sort of thing. And this is the truth. It's hard for you to be inspired when you feel like an ass. And if you don't have a good reason for why you're calling people, you feel like, and it wasn't until I discovered I needed a why that was bigger than me. Before, with all the other past sales training I was taking, it was all about business first, and it didn't sit well with me. So what I started doing was calling people for bigger reasons that was more about them than it was for me. I came up with a 2-plan system. Plan A was the reason for the phone call. A stands for awesome. Anything that was fun, positive, and share-worthy, that's why I was calling them. Plan B was business, and I would pepper that in the conversation when, if, and where it felt fitting. So I never forced the business conversation, I just let it flow. Let me show you a couple examples. You should gather a couple agents from your office and do a yearly clothing drive. It's something you can all add to your marketing calendar as a yearly event. You'll be able to reconnect with everybody in your database with a positive touch point. It's easy, you just call them up and say, hey, we're doing a clothing drive. I'll swing by and pick it up. Would you participate? Just put it in a bag. A lot of people will say yeah, and now what's happening is you get a face-to-face conversation because you're going to swing by and see them. You're updating your database with their mailing address and their home address, which is key for a real estate agent to have, and it's something you can do even quarterly if you wanted, but at least yearly. Do it as a group. You'll get positive press release, you can have a blog, social media, and a whole bunch of stuff out of it. Above and beyond just you connecting with people on a positive level. Now, we've all gone through these calling programs and coaching programs where they have us burn through our database for the first time, and it's a blitz and you're like taking selfies of you doing, and that's great. However, if you ask most agents 3 months later if they're still doing it, they aren't. Most aren't. And the reason for that is because the second, third, and fourth phone call, you run out of ideas. Now, remember I said everything I do is all about joy and it's inside me? Well, on a quarterly basis, I would set something in the future that was fun and totally random and experiential, like a Segway tour or a fishing trip or poker, wine, beer tasting. Like, it doesn't matter. It was always experiential and fun. And that gave me another reason to connect with people. And it was always different. One time it might be a self-defense class. Another time it could be a CPR course. Or maybe it's a make and take where it's a seasonal thing and we all show up, make stuff, and then take it home based on that holiday. Be creative, but have something on your horizon at all time, because that's what makes it easier to pick up the phone and enroll people. Now, as a self-employed professional, you obviously know other self-employed professionals, and a lot of people in your database are going to be self-employed as well. So why don't you do a share and tell where everybody shows up at a restaurant or something, and they go a round table and talk about who they are and what they sell, like their product and service, and then they tell one example of how they generate business. That's going to create cross-pollination between other people in the room. So not only are you going to be the key player, the person in the center that organized the whole thing, but everybody else is going to get value from it, and maybe you can do it on like a quarterly basis, maybe even monthly if it gets big. Now, the whole time I'm calling people about my plan A, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking of plan B. When it's fitting, I'm going to slide in the business conversation depending on who the people are, and more importantly, depending how the conversation is currently going. If it's uplifting and I feel like they have time to talk a little bit longer, I'm going to go into plan B. So an example of plan B is the homeowners. If you know somebody who owns a home, which I hope you do, you can call through your database and let them know, hey, we got this nosy neighbor alert, and it will keep you updated on all the homes that hit the market just in your neighborhood. You'll see the pictures, the price, the home renovations, that sort of thing. It's free and it's easy. What's the best email? And now you're updating your database with homeowners, getting their email and their address so that you can let them know what's happening directly in their neighborhood. It's free for you, it's free for them, it's relevant to them. If you are going to create a drip program, this is the first one that you should do, and it's absolutely free. A lot of people that you know are in business and or self-employed and into investing. Maybe, and if so, you could do a monthly tour looking at duplexes, triplexes, fix and flips, power sales, that sort of thing. And then I would create a smaller list of just the people in my database who are investors, and once a month we could meet up and do a little tour looking at property. The cool thing about investors is that they don't have any loyalty. And the reason why that's cool is because they don't have loyalty to the other agents either. So unless they're under contract, don't step on that. But most of the time it's just a relationship game, and you got to be the one that has the relationship with them. This is an easy touch for sure. The other thing is anybody who is an investor in your database, they have two homes, the one they live in and the one they rent out. You're in this game for another 5 years or 10 years, I hope, right? While that person is probably going to be buying or selling more property in the future. And this is a great touch. A lot of the people we speak to are tenants, and they're not a lost hope. If a person is a tenant, I would be like, hey, what's current rent go for where you're at? And they would tell me, oh, it's around $1,400 or $1,600 or $2,200. And then I would respond, well, that's crazy, because I actually have a list of homes for sale that you can own, and the monthly mortgage is the same as what you're paying in rent. Would you be interested in that? Now, I would only say that if it's true. I don't know what your market is. You might not be able to do that approach, but I can in my market, so hopefully you can in yours. Now, in the back of my mind, the whole time, I'm tuning in to one of these business-related reasons, and the list goes on. I just gave you 3. There's more pillars. Some of you do pre-construction. Some of you do military, specific property like cottages and waterfront and condos, anything. So have all these business pillars in the back of your mind, and then when you're having a conversation, just go with the flow and fit it in. It's more important to pick up the phone and be consistent with dialing than it is to like hammer them down to be a buyer right on the spot or a seller right on the spot. Now, if your office wants to set up an accountability
group, that video there because that is a sales pitch, and you do not want this to be a sales pitch, right? So picking up the phone and calling your database is a real challenge. When I talk to most agents and say, have you called your entire database? The answer to a large degree is no. And so sometimes an office will do like an in-house boot camp thing where they have a certain script that everybody uses. And that's great. The challenge with it is that it doesn't have a long-term shelf life. It's more of like a burning the bridge, calling through your database quick, but it doesn't build that rapport and it doesn't give you that permission-based marketing to keep in touch. And also doesn't make you feel good to pick up the phone and do it again next month or next quarter or next year. And so what happens is your database hasn't heard from you. Can you just let me know you can hear me, right? Before I keep going?
We can hear you. You're all good.
Good. Okay. Sometimes when I switch from one camera to the other, it stops. Good. So basically, I became a professional fun haver. And now with the world of COVID, I'm not telling you to set up client appreciation events and run around the streets hugging people. Okay. So how can we bring this full circle back to dealing with today's world, and how do you connect with your database? Well, to start, I would look at, okay, I'm slowed down, you're slowed down, everybody's slowed down, generally speaking, is what people are thinking. And so what I would do, I would contact my vendors, my mortgage person, my plumber, my roofer, my painter, electrician, junk removal, all the different services that help you out in your industry. So I'm going to call them up, and Kurt answers the phone. He's a mortgage guy. I'm like, hey, Kurt, it's Danny Wood over at ABC Realty. I'm actually calling about your business. You got a quick moment? And I stopped talking. That's one of the best tricks. It's not really a trick, it's just a technique. And that's that you talk too much. And so stop talking. Call a person and ask for permission to keep the conversation going, and then stop talking. Because when you are calling a person, before the phone even rang, you are anticipating it. You're ready for it, and you know who you're calling and why you're calling. But when they answer the phone, they're cooking food, they're cleaning, they're doing stuff, they're playing, they're having fun, they're running or biking, they're doing something, and they weren't expecting your phone call. So when I call a person, I always call them, remind them of who I am and what I do, but then I position it towards what's in it for them. And do you have a quick moment? I don't want to interrupt. And like some people will be like, yeah, this is a perfect time. And others people will say, no, we got dinner on the table. Awesome. I'm really glad that a person would tell me that so that I'm not bothering them, right? So ask that permission. So Kurt answers the phone and he's like, yeah, why? What's up? So I'm like, okay, Kurt, you know how like the world is slowing down right now. I think it's a perfect time for us to do like a local chamber of commerce thing. We'll do it as a virtual Zoom meeting, and where you get to share who you are, tell what you do, and explain one way of how you deal with business during COVID. And it's going to be like a round table discussion with local businesses here in Durham region. And I didn't want you to miss out. Would you participate in that? I'm thinking at the end of the month on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Give him time to digest that, and most of the time he's going to say yeah. So once I have like at least 4 to 6 vendors from my list that say yeah and agree on a set date and time, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into my computer and I'm going to print my database. So I'm going to export my database and print it. Maybe you have 20 sheets of paper, whatever it is. Grab those sheets of paper and staple them together. Then you grab a green highlighter for business, and we're going to go down that list and we're going to highlight all the people who tune into a business conversation. Are any of the people on this list self-employed, in like franchise or sales, commission based, one of those multi-level marketing, direct selling, or is their spouse? And what I'll do is I'll just like the first one is, the next 2 aren't, the 4th and 5th, yes, and I just go down the list. So say I have 100 people on in my database. Maybe I'll get 30 people highlighted. But what I'm doing is I'm creating a story that they'll tune into. because too many agents are failing with calling their database because they're using a one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter approach. And it just doesn't work because your database is different people from different generations and different backgrounds and different interests. So your one-sided script is probably not faring out too well for you. So I'll start calling my database. So I'll start with the first one, and it's Laura. So she answers the phone. I'm like, "Hey, Laura, it's Danny Wood over at ABC Realty. It's been a while, and I'm not actually calling about real estate. I'm calling about your business. Do you have a quick moment?" And I stop talking, and then she's gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, hey, what's up? It has been a while. What are you up to?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing much. We got this Zoom call we're gonna do for local businesses where you get to share who you are and tell what you do, and share one example of how you deal with business during COVID. And if nothing else, it's going to be a great way for you to build and grow your database and your network. And it's free, and it's for local businesses, and I didn't want you to miss out. It's going to be at the end of the month at Thursday at 2 o'clock. Would you participate in that?" And I stop talking again and let her process that, and she's going to say yes or no. It almost doesn't matter. Whether she's into why I'm calling or not is irrelevant. It's just that it gave me the reason to pick up the phone and call her without feeling like a nuisance. Now, depending on the conversation, maybe the kids are crying, the dog's barking, the Amazon delivery man's knocking. There's other stuff happening. And if that's the case, I'm not going to talk business. I'm just going to be like, "Hey, it sounds like you got your hands full. I'll keep in touch. I won't let it go as long as last time. Okay?" Boom. And I'm just going to keep in touch with her as time goes on. But say we're having a really good conversation and it's like very flowing and it's not forced, and I can tell that she has time and we're just having a real normal human conversation. Then I'm going to slide in the business related reason if it fits. So while we're chatting with Laura, I'll be like, "Hey, Laura, actually, I do have a thought about real estate, but again, totally relax. I'm not asking you to buy a home or sell a home, so you can relax on that part. Now just play along with me and hear me out. If you were to guess, how many homes do you think sold in your neighborhood last year?" And you can be wrong. Just throw out a wild number. Do you think it was like 3, 12, 22? And she'll say a number. It doesn't matter. So she'll be like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe 12." Then I would repeat the number and say, "Right, okay, so say it was 12." Then you would agree that's not very overwhelming and spammy. Because what our system can do is notify you of just all the activity real estate related in your neighborhood. And you're going to see the pictures, the price, the descriptions. You're going to see the home staging that they've done and the renovations that they've done. And it really allows you to keep your finger on the pulse of the market that matters most to you. Now, this doesn't cost you anything, and I'm already setting people up, so it's not a bother to me. I just thought maybe you might be interested and you don't want to miss out. So if that's the case, what's the best email? And then I stop talking. You have to learn how to stop talking. So I stop talking, and the last thing I end on what's the best email. So she will be like, "Oh yeah," and she starts telling me her email. So I'm writing it down. And then while she's telling me that, I'll repeat it just to make sure I have the right email. And then I'll say, "Okay, awesome. So we want to be really accurate with this. What's the exact address and postal code? Like I'm going to really dial this in for you." So I'm getting her postal code and her address. After we hang up the phone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to update my database with all of my notes. I'm going to set a next call date that makes sense for her. Maybe she's not buying or selling a home, so maybe I'll just set a next call date for 6 months or whatever. If a person is in your database, they have to have a next call date assigned to them. Otherwise, you're not going to call the people. So always have some sort of manual call date based on your own gut with your own notes as to why you're calling at that date. Now, so I'm going to set her up on the prospect match. So whatever you use as like your MLS. So you would log into your MLS and you would set her up as if she was a home buyer. And her criteria is not the whole city. It's just that one little pocket that she lives in. So depending on your MLS, maybe you can drop a pin and do a radius. Maybe you can do the polygon mapping option, or maybe you can just list out the names of all the streets in her neighborhood. Whatever works on your MLS, what's going to happen is she's going to get emailed basically whenever a new listing hits the market. It's real estate related. It's coming from you and branded from you. It's local and relevant to her. So like, even though I'm standing in a kitchen, I'm kind of against cooking tips and fix your roof tips and just like annoying spam for the sake of just getting your name in front of a person's inbox. If you're going to do that, this approach is way better, and it's a much more casual and comfortable conversation that you can have with even all your past leads. Any old internet lead you got, you could use that same script and go through it with them. So the moral of the story is you need a plan A, plan B. Plan A is awesome. What's in it for them? Plan B is business, but only if it fits during the conversation. So I have multiple plan A's because remember we printed off our list and we highlighted 30 people. Well, what about the other 70? What are we going to call and say to them? Well, maybe we could talk about the fact that homeschooling is a real challenge right now. So what I would do is I would go to Facebook and I would do a quick little post and say, hey, are any of you teachers or do you know a teacher? I have a question about homeschooling. And then over the next 2 days or 3 days, I'm going to get a bunch of people commenting, I do, I am, my sister is, whatever. So I'm going to contact that teacher, pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I want to do a Zoom call for local parents. And if not you, who? Can you just steer me in the right direction to somebody that would help me out? And I don't need a presentation or anything, just us do a Zoom call and chat. And I want to talk about like the apps and the tools and the programs and the time blocking and just different strategies and techniques that parents don't know about that is common practice for you that you're like, oh man, it's so easy. You just have to do this, this, and this. So once I set a date and time with the teacher, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that list of all the people I didn't call because they weren't highlighted. And I'm going to grab a pink highlighter for family. And I'm going to scan down that list and be like, who are all the grandparents and parents? Boom, 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 boom. I'm just going down the list and highlighting as many as I can. Now I have a plan A for them. Going forward, the reason why I like doing the activities and meeting in person is because every month I got to set something on my agenda that was fun and interactive and totally random, like goat yoga or a Segway tour or like Monster Jam or a make and take where people showed up and make things and then take them home with them, a CPR course or self-defense class. It gives me the reason to pick up the phone and enroll a person in a conversation without me being too hung up on them saying yes, that they want to do it. I could call 300 people about the self-defense class or whatever, and maybe you only get 20 people to show up. But you know what else you got? You also got to call that 300 people. And that's what most agents are missing is the actual fact of picking up the phone and calling people. Oh, we're 1 minute past. Okay, I really value
You're all
everybody's
good, you're all
time.
good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
We
So
could listen to you forever, Dan.
ah,
We have lots of specific, product oriented questions in the
sure.
chat and in the Q&A that, we're not going to be able to get to, but, I think we can leave some of that with you. But I think the overarching question is like, this is all really great information. This is really good support. And some folks are, deeper into it than others. But, what would you suggest in terms of, I'm starting out today, where am I building to? What are the key tools that I absolutely need? Which one do I get first? And where do I go from there in terms of a budget?
Cool. Yeah, that is a whole nother hour conversation. What I would say is in the comments section, I just put my cell number. Send me a text message and I'll address every one of you, your questions that we missed, and I'll help you with a free game plan. It's a half-hour call. It's just us throwing mud at the wall to see what sits, and then you'll have a clearer direction on what your next steps are.
That's awesome. I know you've already got some leads that I've sent your way. So good
thank
stuff.
you.
Good stuff. I'll make sure that folks have that number again. We're typing it in the chat as we speak. I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Okay, while you're wrapping up, for anybody who is listening, so there's a couple ways I help. Some agents are like, hey, this is great, but can you do it for me? The answer is yes. So I do done-for-you marketing programs as well. Some agents need help with one-on-one coaching. That's a thing. The other is offices for office training and office recruiting. We have programs for that. And many of you are a part of different boards and associations and regional things that maybe I could be a speaker for that as well. So if you got any value from this type of Zoom call, I can do it again, and I have tons of other content. So if you need me as a speaker now, virtually or in the future, live and on stage, then I definitely encourage you to give me a call. And you know how people are like, hey, follow me and add me on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. I don't really care about the numbers, but what I do care about is connections. And it's the only way for us to keep the conversation going. So look me up. I put my links of my Instagram and my Facebook in there only so that we can truly connect. And I hope you do. So thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dan. Take care. Much appreciated. Bye.